I was presenting, well, basically the debate was about Islamophobia and the LGBT community and how it deals with Islamophobia, and also this idea that comes from the West, this very stereotyped idea that a certain groups might have concerning the LGBTs living in societies where Islam is a religion. So basically I presented our organization, our Lebanese organization, Meem, and from there I went on to kind of explain how we deal with fundamentalism, because in Lebanon it's kind of different. It's a very diverse society. We cannot say that we're living in an Islamic country because we have 18 different sects, and what happens is that whenever one becomes extreme, the other feeds on this extremism and becomes more extreme as well. It's basically something that's based on the fear of the other. So if we just have the fear of the other, the fear of the other's religion, then how can we overcome the fear of the other's sexuality? So it's on different levels. That was basically it.
Were some interesting questions raised at this panel? Considering also this festival is held also in Islam country.
Well,
Islamic.
actually, what was interesting was that maybe I should explain what happened in the panel, or the subjects that were raised, so that you understand the questions that were raised later. The thing is, first of all, an Imam, Mohsen Hendricks, he explained about, he reinterpreted in a sense the Quran, and he explained about how the idea of Sodom and Gomorrah, I mean, where it came from, and how it, when reinterpreted, it has nothing to do with homosexuality. And then we went on to talk about how the West sometimes patronizes LGBT groups and organizations, and how it uses homosexuality as an excuse, or more like as an argument to face other countries. For example, basically, a simple example is that, for example, in Saudi Arabia and Iran, okay, Saudi Arabia is the Sunnite Wahhabist fundamentalist movement, and in Iran we have the Shiite movement after the revolution. So what happens is, for example, the past 2 years in Saudi Arabia, we had heard about so many homosexuals being arrested, and yet not much was mentioned in the Western media. However, whenever something happens in Iran, suddenly it
Sorry about that. Maybe I've chosen the wrong location, but
it's okay. So what happens is that we see that suddenly the whole Western media is talking about Iran and how democracy should be brought to Iran, etc. So they're actually saying, you know, these 2 boys were hung, or the homosexuals are being killed, etc., etc. And it's just that they are concentrating on Iran because they have a certain political agenda against this country, whereas Saudi Arabia, they're not saying anything because they don't want to upset their oil-rich friends. It's as simple as that. And this was later on continued by the Aswat organization, Palestinian Women Organization, and they explained how the same tactic was used in Israel, as in Israel will use the fact that they are queer-friendly to say that they are the only democratic country in the Middle East, which is quite problematic because, like for example, when the World Pride was held, it was love without borders. But I mean, how can you pretend to have a certain tolerance or be with a certain minority when you are at the same time mistreating another minority? And love without borders, just the slogan in itself is very ironic and perhaps a bit unfitting. So these things might be misinterpreted by people who do not have an idea of what is exactly happening in the Middle East. But it is true that apparently later on we knew that Lambda Istanbul has gone through this as well, where it seems that Western groups just, before they try to help us, before they try to show us the right way, because most of the time it's patronizing, they should try to study our society, they should try to know who they're helping, so that it's very simple, but even in a simple email, you don't want to receive something very stereotypical, because that breaks the whole relationship. It's like, you're trying to help me, so that you help me, you have to understand my position, you have to understand my culture, my society. You can't just say, oh, I have money, I'm going to give it to you. That's not how things work. And this is, for example, in our organization, we try to concentrate on that, we try to find our own ways. I'm not saying that the West has been all plague and everything, but no, we learned a lot from especially from the feminist movement. It has been very valuable to us. But they should also understand that not every single point can be taken, because we have different values. And we have to find the ways that are, that correspond with our values. So eventually, we had a few statements, which were basic statements, and we had questions from, one of them was a Greek journalist, and he kind of was disappointed apparently because he felt that we were blaming the West, which was not the case, because I also forgot to mention that when we presented the panel, we mentioned the problems that come from our society. And in his opinion, we were blaming colonialism a lot. But it is a fact that before colonialism, homosexual laws in the constitution did not exist. It's the colonialists who brought this law. And it is a fact that colonialism was present. And when you have colonialism, human rights will not evolve the same way as when you have a country that is comfortable, etc. Sovereign or whatever you want to call it. It's a fact that colonialism will put you 10 years back. And once you have colonialism, when you finish with it, okay, this person or this country or this group that has colonized you, of course you're gonna have a certain block towards it, as in you will stop taking what it's giving you, will stop questioning what it's giving you. So it's very normal. Like, we were under French mandate, the British and the French colonized the big parts of the region and North Africa. So of course there's gonna be a certain, not immunity, but just a lack of trust maybe, And also another fact is that before colonialism, the Quran was reinterpreted. It was questioned, it was thought, it was, people were
having an open debate about it. They felt also free to do that.
Yes, they were free to do that. And in Asia and in South Africa, this has gone normally.
And still it is, yes.
Yes, and Muslim Hendricks is proof that this can be possible. Whereas once our countries were colonized, what happened was that there is religious fundamentalism coming from the West, which is undeniable, because now especially it's on the rise. So to counter that, you don't want to change anything, you don't want to reinterpret your religion, you don't want to reinterpret your society, because you're like, this is going to be a weakness. So you're going to hold it there and be stubborn about it and say, this is us, eat it, or and then it's
like a defense, like an artificial defense system that creates when you feel attacked.
Because you always want to say, I'm right, right. And you think that by questioning yourself, and by yourself as in your religion, your society, etc.
Yes, you're being weak.
Yes, you're showing your weak points to if you want to consider enemy or whatever.